Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you, as always, by Higher Echelon. Appreciate Joe Ross and Higher Echelon sponsoring this podcast. This is our third one in the last 24 hours. This is crazy. This is number 200, the Black Knight Nation's 200th podcast. And this is going to be a good one, guys, because we're all fired up about Army's bowl game. We kind of knew they were going to the Independence Bowl. That was probably the highest, most likely bowl they were going to go to, but to see their opponent pop up, and with all due respect, guys, we have Steve Anderson, we have Cuthbert Hutton from SSN Army here, and we have Seth Mendelson of Black Knight Nation here. We might get Brendan to pop in too. This is something that took up my whole afternoon. This is something that I was on my phone with most of the afternoons looking for updates. I was getting text messages from people about, hey, Army might do this, Army might do that. Hey, we're hearing Army might go to this bowl game. We're hearing this opponent might be Army's. And then when the dust settles, you get Sunbelt champion Marshall at 10-3, and we'll talk about Marshall later on. And you get Navy playing Oklahoma in the Armed Forces Bowl. You get Tulane playing Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl, and you get East Carolina playing NC State in the Military Bowl. And you think, what about your conference champion? What about the conference champion who has 11 wins? You give them the only group of five school out of that group. It's really puzzling. We'll probably just get to some comments now early. And Steve, why don't you get us started on your thoughts? Because I have a lot, but I'd rather hear from you guys first.
Yeah, no. So the thought is love the champion plays champion mindset. That's good. The problem I have is this is comparatively what Army has done this year, and the lack of respect they have received the entire year. This was the icing on the cake for me. I mean, I spoke about it yesterday after the game, and this was just the icing on the cake. I was like, I don't know what Army has done to the selection committee and the AAC staff to where they just seem to get the short end of the stick. I don't get it. It's frustrating as a previous player, and it's extremely frustrating as a fan. To where we have a real chance that you put us against any of those teams that are the first team out, right? You put us against,
Miami.
any of the teams, a Miami, a team that we have a real shot this year to not only, show the talents that what Army can do when you stick to a program and you believe in the brotherhood and you believe in the process. We could have a staple win for the program and end the year just as like in true fashion. Now we're gonna go 13-1. We're gonna destroy Navy. We're gonna destroy Marshall. It's gonna be a great season, and the seniors will go out as the most winningest team in a single season in the history of Army football. So it'll be good. But yeah, just frustrated as a fan. I want more for my players. I want more for the team. I want more for the program. I feel like this is a year we could have played in Oklahoma, Florida. We could have played in Miami, and we could have gone toe to toe. I just feel like they're holding the one bad game we had against Notre Dame against us so much, where you've had you got teams all in the college football playoff, and you have teams that are the first teams out going to great bowl games that had bad games against teams too. It's like we had one not perfect game, and here we are. So anyway, I could keep going. I'll go over to Seth. Seth, what do you got for us?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you guys are aware. I agree with you, Stephen, just about everything you said. But I don't know if you guys are aware, but the quarterback at Marshall and the coach has gone on to Southern Miss. And
we're going to get to that later, Seth. Yeah.
Yeah, well, transfer portal. So that makes it even worse for us. I think this is a money play. I think the fact that, and I think the AAC did not do a good job marketing the championship game up at West Point. They only had a crowd of 14,000, including 4,500 people from the academy. I think that didn't help us. And I think that this is simply a money play. That we got a bowl game. That I met the president of the Independence Bowl. She's a great woman. She's very nice. But we got a bowl game that I don't know why we're there. I mean, not that it's a bad bowl game, but we should have gone someplace else. We're ranked 19th in the AP poll, 22nd in the college football playoff bowl. And what are we doing in the Independence Bowl? And what are we doing playing? Marshall's a good team, but we should be playing a Power 4 team to see just how good we really are. But I think this is a money play. I think that I don't know how they decide who goes where, but I'm going to guess that some of the bigger bowls didn't want us, or the affiliation wasn't there. What's the biggest bowl affiliation we have, Sal? The AAC. Do we know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're not the biggest bowls to begin with. Armed Forces Bowl has always been a good place where Army can draw, and Army has shown up, fan wise. Military Bowl. Now, there was talk about maybe Army in the Military Bowl, but from what I'm told, ECU and North Carolina State can sell out Navy Marine Corps Stadium. So that's the matchup you got.
Sal, I told you guys last night when we did not fill that stadium for the AAC championship game. I told you there was going to be some pushback on where they're going to put us in the bowl, and I knew it. And it's just it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that here we sit at 11-1, losing to a number 4 team in the country, and we can't fight and claw our way to a better bowl. And of course, in true Army humble profession, we're going to accept it. We're going to play in it. We're going to be grateful, and we're going to dominate in it. But there should be the shadow government of West Point fighting for this team to go somewhere else. And whatever that takes, it's what's got to happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Steve. Were they, Seth? You think they were fighting? I know we heard some things that we can't really confirm and stuff like that, but you think I got to think that, when I can't report this for a fact, but I'm thinking like a Texas State was their first option. And maybe Army said, well, we're not doing that. We're not playing Texas State. I don't have any of that on the record. I have nothing of that on the record. But it took a while for Army to settle in with an opponent. You wait for the CFP to happen, and you're like, okay, some dominoes start to fall into place. But yeah, it's between 3 and 4 o'clock, I think, when it was announced. I could be wrong. I think it was more like closer to 4. That Brett McMurphy, get Brett McMurphy all the credit. He had it first, and of Action Sports, and it's just like, okay, there's always some wheeling and dealing going on where there's 2 or 3 teams that could be opponents for the ACC slot, and it's very frustrating. Brendan, why don't we get your opinion on this?
Yeah, so I'll just say my criticism here is, as we've said, Marshall's a good team. They won the Sun Belt in convincing fashion. I mean, they beat the absolute pants off a really good Louisiana team. I think they had like 9 wins going into that game. So it's not about any disrespect toward Marshall, and like all jokes aside about Shreveport, the Independence Bowl has wanted Army for the past 6 years or whatever, ever since they signed the ink on the deal where it was a 6-year. It was when Army was still independent. It was a 6-year bowl deal. The odd years were kind of up to ESPN, and the even years were going to be the Independence Bowl. 2020 didn't work out. Not the Independence Bowl's fault. They searched for an opponent, couldn't find one, and then ultimately West Virginia stepped up and said, "Hey, you can come play us in the Liberty Bowl," because we had an opponent back out. And then obviously Army wasn't bowl eligible in 2022. So, it's to me, it's not about that. It's the fact that you look around, every single team in the top 25, whether it be CFP, AP or coaches. It's the same 25 teams in each poll. Every single one is either in the playoff or playing in a bowl against either a Power Four or Syracuse is playing against Washington State, who's a Pac-2 team, except for Army, and then on top of that, it just within our own league, 3 teams who finished below Army, one of whom who Army beat directly, Tulane, Memphis, and Navy are all playing Power 4 teams in their bowl games. And
I forgot Memphis. Yep.
yeah, and I understand that the Gasparilla Bowl isn't necessarily a great fit because it puts Army on short rest after the Navy game. It would be like literally the Friday after Navy, so I know the team the program wouldn't necessarily want to take it. However, I don't know. I mean, the way things have ended up, I part of me would rather be there to play a P4 or, I mean,
yeah.
My gosh, I mean, Navy playing Oklahoma, what a chance for a make good, when Oklahoma didn't get to come to West Point during the pandemic, and
yep,
it's all out the window. So, I'm still thinking of going just because I'd love to see the capstone of this season, and hopefully as Steve said, hopefully it's 13-1. I think it's going to be as well, but it's just it's frustrating to look around that landscape and for whatever reason you just feel like Army's had something not given to them. It's funny. Steve was like, this is like the icing on the cake of disrespect. I actually used a similar metaphor talking to someone else earlier. It's like the cherry on top of the disrespect sundae. This like last little thing, but
yeah, why not? Cuthbert, why don't you give us your opinion?
First and foremost, I just want to say this is Beat Navy Week, and what we're talking about right now doesn't really matter. What really matters is capturing the CIC in DC in 6 days. Everybody is in agreement with that, but it's like I've been hot to trot on Twitter all afternoon, and so I just want to make sure that it's clear that we all understand that's the most important thing. That being said, obviously we are getting the short end of the stick here. And the bowl, I don't know, selection committee or however it is the bowls are getting assigned, we're obviously getting owned. We deserve, Steve, to your point, we deserve a first 4 out caliber team, at the very least, a top 25 team. The problem is, I think, and I don't know enough about bowls and contracts and tie-ins and conferences, and everything's kind of crazy this year because there was PAC conference, tie-ins, and that conference doesn't exist anymore. Army had tie-ins to the Independence Bowl, prior to joining the American. So, how does that, I don't know how all those machinations work out, but the fact that we are not getting a top 25 or top 25 fringe, you know what I mean? Like whatever, 26 to 32 team is really a slap in the face. That being said, I've made a very strong stand on this. I may be alone in this chat on it, and if that's the case, I understand. But I am not jealous of Navy getting Oklahoma. Oklahoma is in 13th place in the SEC, and Tulane is playing Florida, and Florida is a great brand. God bless it. They're going to go to a bowl game that pays less money than the bowl game we're going to play a team that's ranked 10th in their conference. And I'm a big proponent of enough with the brand bullshit, pardon my language. But it's like, if you're upset, and I don't mean this as an attack to anyone who might be on this, it might be in this discussion, but this is what I've been saying to people on Twitter, and I really believe this. If you're upset that Memphis gets to play West Virginia, who finished 9th in the Big 12, then you're the kind of person who's upset that Alabama got left out of the college football playoff. All right. I don't know what to tell you. These teams are not good. They don't deserve to play us. Now, we do deserve to play Miami, Ole Miss, Mizzou, Iowa State, BYU, you name it. Any of those teams. I'm 100% with you that this is disrespectful. But I will take Marshall who is a conference champion over one of these P4. They're not even also Rans. They're bottom feeders.
They're 6 and 6.
I do not care. I do not care about these teams. UNLV is playing Cal. Fantastic. UNLV, you get a P4 opponent. They finished 14th in their conference. This is not important to me. I appreciate the fact that we're actually going to be playing a conference champion. I understand that their coach has left. Now their quarterback is leaving. All these people in the transfer portal. You know what? That's probably how we beat Mizzou 3 years ago. It doesn't matter who we're playing. Unless we're in the college football playoff, whoever we're playing is going to have a million transfer portal people and a bunch of people sitting out for the NFL. It is what it is. That is the state of college football. So I don't know why our tie-in isn't putting us against a better team, a top 25 team. As I opened with, I don't know how that all works. But the long and the short is I will take a conference champion Marshall over any of the dregs that these other American conference teams get to play. It's like, God bless you. You get to play an Oklahoma team that nobody cares about. You know what I mean? And that's just my personal opinion, but I do feel very strongly about that.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I'm more of the Lane Kiffin mindset where it matters what conference you play in because the talent's just different. A 7-5 Oklahoma team is better than a 10-3 Marshall team that won the conference championship. That's just the fact. Oklahoma beat Alabama this year. Alabama beat Georgia, who won the SEC. Those teams all beat up on each other. Those are good, talented teams. Their record, you can say all you want about records and stuff. It's hard to win the SEC. It's harder to win the SEC than any other conference. And that's just a fact. They're just too much talent in that league. So I look at it as I just want our guys to be tested. I want them to play an opponent that will test us. And you can't tell me they'll be tested against Marshall more than they'll be tested against a Florida or an Oklahoma. Or now I am on the aspect that I believe we should have, a 13 through 25 team. I think we've earned that. Conference champion or not, I think that's what we deserve. That's where I think I am at as far as the caliber of who we are on par with is we should face a 13 through 25 team. Period. It should just be that easy. If you're finishing the top 25 in all three polls, you should be playing a top 25 opponent. So I like the idea that we're playing a conference championship, just like you started with, or like I started with, and like what you said. So yeah.
Let me see you real quick.
I'm gonna go back if I could.
Seth, let me talk. Seth, let me talk for a second, real quick. In the past, when Army's gotten the bowl games, like the Armed Forces Bowl, the Armed Forces Bowls tried to find the best opponent for Army. They got San Diego State one year when San Diego State was really good, and they tried to work with Army. They tried to make the best matchup possible, right? This Independence Bowl, I guess on paper, champion versus champion, is that the best matchup possible that the Independence Bowl could have brought? I don't know. Is Marshall bringing a bunch of fans to Shreveport? Is Marshall bringing a big bunch of fans to Shreveport? I don't know. I think that in Oklahoma might have been a little bit closer. I think, that's just me. I don't know. Go ahead, Seth.
Well, I was along those same lines. I was going to say that, again, I'm the money play. Oklahoma's playing at Dallas, aren't they? Not far. Texas Tech is playing Memphis, not far. Fort Worth they're playing. Georgia Tech, Birmingham. That's not that far. We are going all the way out to Shreveport, and we're playing teams not from that area. So I don't know what kind of attendance we're going to get. I guess that the military people come to the game. The people based there and nearby bases. I don't know the closest base or not, but I think that has something to do with it. I think, to Steve's point before, they looked at the attendance on Friday and said, "Oh boy." These guys they can't draw at their home game. And we all know why. The game started late. It was freezing out. Friday night, the holiday season. There's a lot of things. I got to tell you, I'm a season ticket holder for Army. I have 2 seats. I've had them forever, since the 1960s. My dad had them and I took them over. Nobody contacted me about buying tickets for the game. I might have bought 2 tickets. I'm going to get my sons wanted to go. but nobody contacted. I was pretty busy. I didn't get around to it either. But I mean, where was the marketing for this? They had 14,000 people there, which 4,000, 5,000 were West Point people. And then
that's the same way. That's the same way I feel about how the league handled Army this whole year. All of a sudden, Army wins it, and they're the greatest thing in the world. And Bryce Daly is a Heisman candidate, and they're just talking us up like we're the greatest thing in the world. Where's that been all year? Where's the fight for Army been all year? And it's just I feel for the players in the program because I know how far this program has come from the dark years when I essentially was there and saw a little bit of light, and now Monken has got us all the way here. We've arrived, and nobody's given us the chance. And
exactly right.
I hate to say this because I'm on the same lines where I don't want to play. I don't want our win over a bottom feeder Florida team to be the win we get, but a win against a program like that matters to recruiting. It matters. We don't gain recruits beating a Marshall. We're expected to beat Marshall. We'll gain recruits when we beat an Oklahoma, a Florida, an NC State, a team like that. And I know I know they're not the greatest team this year. They're not the greatest, whatever. And no team is going to be the same team that they were last week because there's 1,000 transfers. There's 1,000 people sitting out. So none of these games really mean anything unless you're in the college football playoff. But still, a Army win, the box score is going to say Army beats Florida, and that matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's probably my biggest frustration with this is you've had people screaming at Army for years, like people scream at Notre Dame, join a conference. Like, you're not a real team unless you're in a conference. They join a conference, they beat everybody they put in front of them, they win the title game, and then in the end, their biggest rival gets a sexier bowl matchup than they do. And it's just like, where's the justice in that?
We got to stop this podcast because Mike says we got to stop complaining, and we had a great year. We should be celebrating this season.
Well, that's why we are complaining. That's why we are complaining, because we had a great year, and we're looking for more. We're looking for that respect that you guys are all talking about here. We're 11-1. We lost, and we very well could be 12-1 going into the bowl game, and we should be. Hopefully, we will be. And nobody's giving us any respect. And they say, "Oh, he got killed by Notre Dame." Notre Dame's one of the top teams in the country. Okay, and they can very well win this whole thing. I'm not sure they will, but they could. There's no respect for West Point here, and I'm going to say it. I don't think there's any respect, like you guys have said, from the AAC. They started talking about Army when they realized that we were the team that had the best chance to get into the CFP after we beat Tulane. Before that, they weren't talking about us. You know why? Because if a team gets into the CFP, it's a lot more money for the conference. So that's why they were promoting us. Otherwise, they don't seem to care.
I will say, I was genuinely surprised by the impassioned. I mean, I like Tim Pernetti as a commissioner, but I was genuinely surprised by the impassioned, the notes, the letters, the tweets, the social media posts about, Army deserves a spot in the college football playoff. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I agree. It's just very funny that it's like within 12 hours of us beating Tulane, and it's just like y'all said, all of a sudden it's like, we need Bryson Daly in New York. It's like, yeah, we know we need him. We've all been saying that all year. It is very funny that it's like in this 11th hour, all of a sudden it's like, oh, no. We loved him the whole time.
I almost feel like he's been bottling it up the entire season. Like, he's got to say, I'm biased because he's a commissioner. And then finally when we won, he was like, all right, I can finally tell you how I feel now. And it's like, he should have been politicking. Look, and I have no idea what it takes to be a commissioner of a conference. I have no idea. I'm a active duty Army officer. Look, this is one of the few things I can speak my mind about freely without getting in trouble. So I just feel like it was very strange. I agreed with everything he said. I just wish there was you saw, and you saw it happening in other conferences, maybe not from the commissioner, but at least from, other people, like fighting for their team and making sure they were known. And I don't know. I mean, Bryson Daly deserves everything he's earned, and the team. That's really just what I'm upset about. I'm upset that the team doesn't get the respect they deserve, and that's why I'm all fired up.
Man,
One
we
more
have so
thing.
many comments here. I can't even get to them all. But can we talk about this one real quick? Maybe unpopular, but I kind of feel Army should tell this bowl matchup to take a hike. Army deserves a Power 4 matchup. How does Tulane get a better bowl matchup than we do?
Yeah,
Could
you
Army
can't do
just
that.
have not
Can't do
played
that.
the – huh?
Can't do that, man. This is a senior's last shot
Mhm.
before they start doing some real stuff with real dangerous times that are going on. So we're not going to say, we're not going to give up an opportunity to play Army football. But I love the idea of being able to do that, just not a realistic one.
Hey, one more thing. Our game starts at 9:00.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
terrible.
what is that?
9:15.
9:15.
9:15 Eastern.
I mean,
That's the worst. It's the worst,
the
Steve.
worst time.
Dude, you guys, I forgot about that, and I was fired up about that earlier, and then you just brought it up now. Now I'm even more angry at that.
Oh my God.
It's just like literally, you know what? Let's see how much we can disrespect Army and watch them still do exactly what we tell them to do, because it's just like, man, if I could just, do something.
Well, is this a situation where, and I don't want to like look too far into the future and make too many presumptions, right? But for Boise State to get to where they are now, where they actually have a bye in the college football playoff, we're looking at basically a 20-year trajectory from when they won that Tostitos Bowl, whatever that was, like 06 or 07, whatever it was.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Is this a Army, like, we're still by and large just considered Army, and then we come back next year. I'm not saying we're going to go 10-1 again and win the AAC again, but let's say that we do it again. Do we get a better, even if we don't make the CA? Let's say we repeat this season exactly, and we go undefeated in the AAC, and we finish and we're ranked, and we're not in the CFP. Do we then get the respect at that point? Is this a look, y'all have done great and that's fantastic, but this very well may be a one-off. You know what I mean? And it's like we are now potentially in the possibility of like a 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 year. We have to consistently be delivering, not necessarily to this level, but close to it for a prolonged period before we can start to see the type of respect that, I mean, frankly, I'm not saying we don't deserve it now. We do, but we all know how this works, and TV executives and the fat cats. And somebody on Twitter today was talking to me about the average fan, and I said, well, the average fan is asking themselves why Boise State is getting a bye, and I'm like, Boise State deserves a bye, and obviously I'm a huge Army fan, but I'm not here for the average fan. I'm here for Army. You know what I mean? And so I don't know.
Yeah,
I wonder about
it feels like a pledge year, initiation, like a hazing year. Like, hey, we're gonna just keep throwing you to the wolves, and you'll just have to keep,
Yeah.
Another thing, and I liked what you said about the trajectory thing, because it reminded me of a comment. Two of my non-Army buddies that love Army football said, that are football fans, and they basically just said the triple option will never be able to win a national championship in football today. And because of that, the selection committee will never take Army or an academy team seriously because they can't win against larger, faster teams. And of course, I just disagreed with it because it's been done before. But I just thought that was an interesting take of, I didn't ever look at it as it's because of a style of play that other fans look at it as that's why they're not getting what they deserve. And I just thought that was an interesting take.
Hey, real quick, I got some insight on what might have happened, and I just got texted something, and I just want to, so basically, Army, according to from what I'm told, had no other choice but to honor the Independence Bowl tie that it was in as the conference champion because ESPN owns the bowl. So apparently, if that's the case, and Army had to play in the Independence Bowl as the conference champion, that's fine and dandy. It's up to the Independence Bowl to find Army the best matchup possible. It's up to the Independence Bowl to work with other bowls, to move pieces around and try to find Army the best matchup possible. And in my opinion, they did not do that. So
Okay, so do you want to go to Jacksonville or San Diego, or do you want to go to Shreveport? So to your point, which is probably correct, I assume it's correct, other teams are going to say, I don't want to go play in Shreveport. I want to go play in a bigger market where it's more fun.
yeah, you have to have two. You have to have another team agreed to play in the ball, right? I mean, you have to have an agreement there. So I think that maybe that plays a little bit into the way it shook out. But I did hear from people pretty close that there were other bowls really interested in Army, and that those bowls could possibly jump the Independence Bowl and take Army. I did hear that from a pretty decent source, and so like Cuthbert, like you said, who is it? The Wild Wild West? I don't know,
Well,
but
and also, I don't want to be too conspiratorial here, but what is the likelihood? Because again, the way it works with contracts and who gets to play where, and the Power Four is always trying to insulate themselves because they never want to be embarrassed by playing a Group of 5 team. What is the likelihood that there were hypothetical bowl matchups and you had teams a la COVID year being like, "Oh, no, we're not going to go play Army. No. We would rather go to the CarQuest Bowl, right? The Cheez-It Bowl, and play another middling P4 team than risk playing Army." And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I can't help but wonder if there wasn't some degree of that, of other teams being like, "Oh, no, we don't want to play Army. We're not interested. We don't want to learn their defense, or we don't want to learn their scheme. We don't want to deal with, Bryson Daly. He's a glass eater. Best quote of the year. That's God's honest truth." What is the likelihood that there were teams who would have walked away? I don't know.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, let's go back to 2021 when Missouri, right? Weren't we not in a bowl game and somebody else dropped
that's West
out? What year was
Virginia.
that?
That's West Virginia, Seth.
What year was that?
That was the COVID year, West Virginia.
Okay.
West Virginia stepped up and played.
Virginia. We weren't even invited to a bowl game that year until somebody dropped out. So yeah, and then maybe people think about what happened with Houston. We beat them 70-14 and didn't take the foot off the gas the whole game, which I don't blame them. Maybe people, to your point, maybe people are saying we don't want to play Army, but Army deserved a shot. We deserved to be on a stage against a team where we could sit there and say, okay, Power 4 team, and we did well. Not Notre Dame, maybe a level or two below that.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% correct. I think there are Army's a dangerous team just to play in general when you're in the mix of things, because it's a completely different problem set. You got to change your defense. A lot of times you can't run your base defense because a 4-3 doesn't usually work pretty well against the triple option. You got to go to a 3-4 or 5-2. So there's all this install that goes on. And then you throw in a Heisman candidate, number 1 offensive line in the country, that don't turn the ball over. And now you're like, yeah, I really don't want to play Army now. Like, I didn't want to play it before, but now I definitely don't. I 100% agree with that thought.
Let's go to Beatum. He said he read earlier that the Independence Bowl bid Army had signed was absorbed in an AAC bowl tie-in this year. This wasn't automatic for Army. I wonder if the AAC, you think, Army's the conference champion. You think that, the AAC would want to put their conference champion, their top 25 team, in a attractive bowl, but instead you get, Marshall, who, like we said before, we'll repeat it again, their coach is gone. Their quarterback is in the portal. It's a 9:15 game on Saturday, which ESPN controls. That's the Independence. That's probably been the Independence Bowl time slot since the bowl, since the beginning of this season, probably even earlier. And that's what you get. And I guess now, you talk about Bryson Daly and the Heisman campaign, right? And you talk about, Cuthbert, you talk about it's Navy week, and there's a lot on the table to still accomplish in the season. They're going to defend their Commander-in-Chief's trophy. And maybe this is just another showcase game for Bryson Daly where there's just highlights galore like the Houston game. Like, it's just like, okay, you want to give us Marshall? We're going to play they always play their hardest, but maybe that's even a little bit of a motivation to, not this week, but when they're preparing for that bowl game. Let's go at it. Let's play which they always do. But maybe Bryson Daly will have 6 touchdowns. Maybe Kanayudo will have, another couple, and they'll both rush for 150 plus yards, and they'll be showcasing, hey, this Army team was damn good, and you guys maybe sold them a little short, and they deserve better. I mean, that's all I can say. So,
well, and the other thing is the research that I did on the bowl tie-ins to the American. And again, trying to understand bowl tie-ins and contracts, it's like reading tarot cards. But from what I could tell, the Independence Bowl has the largest payout of all available bowls to us that we are contractually obligated via the American. Mm-hmm. And so, listen, I would have loved for a bigger bowl to have come in and scooped us up and jumped it like you were talking about earlier, Sal. But it's like, look, if this is the biggest payout, and this is the best we can do, it's like, well, then let's get that payout. And people online are like, oh, well, you got to split that with the conference. It's like, yeah, but the payout still matters. I mean, the Independence Bowl payout is double what the Gasparilla Bowl or the Cure Bowl in Orlando is. And I live in Florida. I would love for them to be playing in the Gasparilla Bowl. It's 20 minutes from my house. But, when we're talking about dollars and cents here, it's like, well, it's a double payout to go to the Independent, to go to Shreveport relative to going to, Tampa. So, let's take the money. It is what it is. If we're contractually obligated, I mean, I would prefer us not be in a place like Shreveport. I would prefer us not be playing at 9:15. But if we're trying to make the best of a bad situation, then let's do it. Let's beat the shit out of Marshall, and let's call ourselves the Sun Belt champions too. I mean, it is what it is. But I'm a glass half full guy. Admittedly. But I don't know. That's just where I stand.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, this is look, this was my chance to vent and bitch and complain. All right. Like, at the end of the day, you're exactly right. I mean, we're going to go to Landover, Maryland and destroy Navy and go meet the president again. All right. Then we're going to take care of business against Marshall. I love, that's going to be, when we take care of Marshall, that's going to be my thing. I'm going to have AAC and Sun Belt champion belts. I'm going to have those belts made for the year 2024. All right. Because I'm going to wear those around the office once I get back to work. And that's the mentality that we know this team's going to have, 100%. I don't think there's any doubt about it. It seems like, okay, they done pissed us off again. Here we go. And they're like ready to show it. And, it's 100%. I love that. I love that mentality.
Well,
and yeah, of course it's about money.
Sounds great.
Of course, this is a business. It's a business. The selection committee's not dumb.
Yeah,
all these guys get hired and promoted all based on the amount of money they bring in. All right, that's why Roger Goodell's still running the NFL as the commissioner. Okay, he just keeps bringing in the dollars. All right.
Yeah, it's we've had some great comments here. We had some great engagement tonight. We really appreciate you guys popping in and watching our 200th episode of the Black Knight Nation podcast. I think we probably talked as much as we can about this. Is there anything that go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
I got a couple just last couple things here. I think what really bothers me about the thing that bothers me most, other than like recruiting and exposure and all that kind of stuff, is how many more hoops does Army have to jump through to kind of break the glass ceiling and be able to engage with the entirety of college football. Like the idea that power conferences are scared of us, like y'all got rid of cut blocking. Like you don't have to deal with that anymore. and you're still like, oh man, like we don't want to play them, rather than having the aspirational attitude of like, hey, like maybe we're not quite as good as Notre Dame, but we're like a power team. Like we can handle a team like Army. So that bugs me. And then in terms of, I mean, it doesn't bother me that Army wasn't selected for the playoff this year, but in terms of the keyword, the trajectory of trying to get there, I mean, we have seen in the past, group of 5 teams are treated differently, and it usually takes 2 or 3 years of sustained success before it's rewarded at that high of a level. So I absolutely believe that Army can barnstorm their way through next year's schedule and maybe even go 12-0 in the regular season. I mean, if they can knock off Kansas State in week 1, sky's the limit for the rest of the year. And then, hopefully a year from now, we're having a very different conversation from the one we're having. Maybe not at the level of the college football playoff, but, talking about those last 4 out teams are at the very least another top 25 team. So, to your point,
Brandon, I mean, no NIL, no cut blocking, no transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
If you do come here, you're going to start again as a freshman, and you're gonna go through the gambit. You're gonna do military training. To your point about all the hoops we already have to go through, where's the benefit? Where's the these guys earned it, and they kind of do a lot. So like let's just give them a shot and see what happens. So I go back to, I think they held Notre Dame. They could, and they did hold the Notre Dame game against us, even though other teams lost in similar fashion and was not held against them. And that's, again, after listening to the Sun Belt champion, the Sun Belt champion comment, I'm done. I understand what we're dealing with, and it's beat Navy week now for me. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, Marshall's a fight on another day, but let's put an 80 burger on them. But in the meantime, let's beat the crap out of Navy.
Yeah, beat them.
Yeah, real quick. I had Trey Granati on our podcast today. Please check out our YouTube channel and check out that interview. And Trey really puts things in perspective with the AAC when his involvement in that forced fumble on that kickoff, which was a key game-changing play. He is just it's a really just great insight, great interview. Please check that out on the Black Knight Nation podcast. So thankful for Trey to give us time around noon today. They're preparing for Navy, and he was really great to have on. So check that out. Check out our review of the AAC game that we have on the YouTube channel too. I just felt like today we had to come and talk about this. A lot of people were talking about it. There was a buzz all day, and this is the day to talk about it before Monday and the Navy week. I guess unofficially begins. But I mean, there's a lot still on the table, like we said. And if they take care of business against Navy, and then they move up a little bit, whatever it is, and take care of business, you could have 13 wins this year. And 13 wins is unheard of from a service academy team. And if you can get there, you can almost stamp yourself as one of the best service academy teams, either Army, Navy, or Air Force, maybe in the last, who knows how many years. You probably have to go back to those 40 teams and stuff like that. This may be the best team that we're going to be watching.
I mean, this team this year has been making an argument, and I mean, we'll see how it bears out. Kind of,
Finish strong, man.
But this team could go down as the best team since Coach Blake was on the sidelines.
Crazy stuff. But we appreciate everybody. Thanks, Steve, Seth, Brendan, and Cuthbert joining us tonight. And we'll be back with a review of the Army Navy game next weekend. We'll see if we can get you some stuff in between. But thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Beat 'em.
Beat 'em.
Beat 'em.